Hello, everybody. Welcome tonight to tonight's show of the league here on Tradition Forums. I'm your host, as always, Bama Grad, bringing you tonight's broadcast. Tell you, we had a great preseason show for the kickoff of the league, and what a week we had getting this thing rolling. As we got things rolling in fantastic style. Started off with the Saints and the Packers as being our kickoff game for the league. Can't get any better than that. As the commish started everything off with his first game with his new team, as he decided going into the league that he was going to go with the New Orleans Saints and not the Jacksonville Jaguars, team he's pretty much owned in the OMFL since first season of the OMFL. So and he ended up building the Jags into a AFC power. Now, the big question would be, can the same formula work for the New Orleans Saints that worked so well with the Jags for Big D as we get things rolling in the game? Going to looking at the game preview before everything kind of got going. The edge went to the Packers in this. But overall, the final score belonged to the New Orleans Saints as they ended up winning it 26-23 in this game. Drew Brees with 15 of 20, 212 yards, one touchdown. Rookie Mark Ingram out of Alabama, 17 carries, 56 yards, two touchdowns. The other telling stat in this was Drew Brees had 5 carries for 54 yards and also a touchdown. So interesting note there. Of course, I don't think we're going to see him. I don't think we're going to see Brees run that much this season unless that's in Big D's game plan for him to run that much. Be pretty risky, especially for a quarterback that's pretty much your franchise right now. So we'll just have to see how that goes there. Your receiving core, Devery Henderson at 5 receptions, 72 yards. Jimmy Graham at 5 receptions, 64 yards. Neither of those guys reached the end zone. The only one that hit the end zone in this game was Marquise Colston, as he had 1 touchdown in the game, and that was the only scoring aerial-wise. But good game there for the Saints. Defensive leaders for the Saints, you had Keith Bullock, 3 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble. Patrick Robinson, 1 tackle and a forced fumble. And then Abreu Franklin, 3 tackles and 3 tackles for him. Nothing else other for him. It was a good game. Otherwise than that, you had time of possession was pretty close. It was 16-14 for the Packers. First downs were even at 16 apiece, and like I said, only 1 turnover in this game. And for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers was 12 of 16, 225, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Ryan Grant, 28 carries, 106 yards, 1 touchdown. Receiving core, Greg Jennings, 4 receptions, 104 yards, 1 touchdown. And Jordy Nelson, 3 receptions, 53 yards, and no touchdowns. And then defensively for the Packers, Antoine Odom, 3 tackles, 2 sacks. Clay Matthews, 4 tackles, 1 sack. And Dave Bowens, 3 tackles, 1 sack for the Packers. Tough game to lose, 26-23, but it was a well-played game other than that. Interesting part about this game was the fact that the former owner of the Packers ended up quitting not only the game at the end, but the league. Just bounced himself right out of the league. You just couldn't handle a 3-point loss. Okay. So that brings up the most important rule that we have in this league, and that is don't quit your games ever. It is listed in the rule book. It is the major no-no in any league in this forms. You just never quit your league, whether you get blown out or you lose a close game. Gentlemen, swallow up your pride and your ego and check it out the door before you play this game. If you're ever in a situation where you feel that you're just, Damn my pride, damn my ego. I'm going to play the way I want to. Better check that at the door, gentlemen. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself on a very short leash in this league and possibly out the door. Just remember, everyone here, we are Sim League, nothing else. Uh, Everything else is just a cheeseburger, baby. If you want a cheeseburger, go to Burger King, go to McDonald's, go somewhere else. Just don't bring it here. We are a cheese-free league. We do not want cheese on our burgers. So getting that point out, done, over. So moving on to the next game, which ended up being another fabulous game. It was Night Knowles and his Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens, and this was a typical rivalry game. As it was a hard-fought game. Final score 28-24, favor of the Steelers in this game. Telling stat in this game was not pretty. You had a total of 9 turnovers in this game, and quite the differential in first downs. As the Steelers had 19, the Ravens only had 5 in this game. And then by the time possession went to the Steelers, 18-13, as they just held on to the ball a lot longer. Of course, when you get turnovers, that will happen. It gives you more possessions to not only score, but to chew up that clock, get the game over with. But quite a telling story there in the stats there in that game. But for Big Ben Roethlisberger, 19-37, 320, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then Rashard Mendenhall, 28 carries, 113. Mike Wallace, 7 carries, 137 catches, 135 yards, 1 touchdown. And old man Hines Ward, 3 catches, 64 yards, and no touchdowns. And then for the Ravens, Joe Flacco, 10-20, 186, 1 touchdown, but 3 huge interceptions. And Ray Rice, 18 carries, 93 yards. And Lee Evans, receiving cores for the Ravens, 3 catches, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. Torrey Smith, 3 catches, 60 yards for the Ravens. And for the defensive leaders, Jared Johnson, 5 tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles. Ed Reed, 7 tackles, 1 forced fumble. And Bernard Pollard, 5 tackles and a forced fumble for the Ravens. As I said, this was not a pre-game at all. And James Harrison for Steelers, 8 tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles. He was extremely busy. Lamar Woodley, 6 tackles, 2 sacks. And Lawrence Timmons, 5 tackles, 1 interception in the game. So, interesting part about this was before the game preview, before this thing started, had the Steelers on the advantage side, and it ended up turning out that way. So great job by Knowles. He gets first win as the Steelers head man in a big way. So we will move on to week 2, which I will bring to you later, all the matchups of that game, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in week 2. Cleveland Browns against the Cincinnati Bengals. The battle for Ohio. Something tells me they just need to make a trophy, call it the Battle for Ohio or something like that, a trophy or something like that. Because this game has always been and always will be a tough game for both clubs. It is deemed a rivalry game in the NFL. As both teams are entrenched in Ohio, so no surprise there that it's such a rivalry. And biggest change is we had 2 starting quarterbacks who are relatively new guys. You had Andy Dalton, rookie out of TCU, took over his starting job after Carson Palmer threw out his ultimatum to the management saying, trade me or I retire. And we have not heard from Carson Palmer since then. And then you have 1-year quarterback Colt McCoy, backed up most of last year, did play some towards the end of last season, but became the starting quarterback when the team decided to not bring back Jake Delhomme as their quarterback. So Colt McCoy, as I like to say, battle of two rookies. Colt McCoy, even though he's 1 year in the NFL, this was his rookie year starting. And how would he do? Well, the final score was 35-20. As the preview came out, gave the advantage to the Browns in this one, as we will see, as we saw that it did come to fruition in that factor. As telling story in the game, you had one turnover, which was very good. Very good for ball control. Browns had the ball a little bit longer for time possession, 17-14, and first downs were golfed up by the Bengals, 21-14, but just did not show up on the scoreboard for them. But Colt McCoy and his rookie debut at starter was 14-19, 221, 1 touchdown. Peyton Hillis altogether stole the show. 19 carries, 240 yards, 4 touchdowns. Just unbelievable numbers. Tough guy to bring down. Of course, the man is 240 pounds to go along with those 240 yards. But it was just tough man to bring down in this game. Receiving core-wise, Antoine Randall L. had 3 catches, 86 yards. Mohamed Massaquoi had 4 receptions, 56 yards. And the only one to reach the end zone through the air for the Browns turned out to be tight end Benjamin Watson, as he had 1 catch, 19 yards for the only score through the air, as Peyton Hillis just chewed it up on the ground. What else can you say other than that? For the Bengals and their new quarterback, Andy Dalton, he was 25 of 45, 362, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. And Cedric Benson, 17 carries, 65 yards. No touchdowns for him. And Jermaine Gresham, 5 catches, 109 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Andre Caldwell, 5 receptions, 69 yards. And then for defense, for the Bengals, Manny Lawson had 4 tackles and a sack in this game. Keith Rivers, 1 tackle, 1 sack, and Chris Crocker, 1 tackle in the game. For the Cleveland Browns defensive leaders, Sheldon Brown, 2 tackles, 1 interception, the only turnover in the game. Marcus Bernard with 2 tackles, 1 sack, and Derek Robinson, 1 tackle, 1 sack. But so good game there for both teams. Cleveland pulls it out again, 35-20. So they're 1-0 on the new season. So we'll just have to see how it goes from there. Moving on to game 2, pitted the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans in this game. The only thing I could say in this game was, where was defense? Because it was absolutely shredded in this game for both teams. Defensively, this was not your best game ever. Going to game preview for the game, pitted the advantage to the Colts, and it definitely stood true to that, as they took a 7-point win today, 45-38. Both teams really were on in this game. The offense was just, both offenses were juggernauts in this game. Total offense, 608 yards total for the Colts, 459 for the Texans. First downs was 19-16 for the Texans. Time possession was pretty tight, 17-14 also to the Texans. Turnovers, though, were the big point in the game, as Texans went with that 4-3. 7 turnovers in the game. A close second to the Steelers game with 9. But a tough game by the Colts, as we come to expect in this thing. Shootout is what we got. Peyton Manning on the day, 17 of 23, 509 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and then Joseph Adai, 20 carries, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns. Reggie Wayne, 6 receptions, 144 yards. Dallas Clark, 5 receptions, 111 yards, 1 touchdown. receiving wise. And then for the Texans, Matt Schaub, 21 of 37, 371, 3 touchdowns, but 4 huge interceptions. Arian Foster, 23 carries, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. And then Owen Daniels had 9 receptions, 109 yards, 1 touchdown. Andre Johnson, 4 receptions, 94 yards, 1 touchdown. And then defensive leaders, Brian Cushing, 6 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception for the Texans. Antonio Smith, 2 tackles, 2 sacks, and Jonathan Joseph, 1 tackle for the Texans. And for the Colts, defensive leaders, Gary Brackett, 8 tackles all over the field was this man, and a sack. Robert Mathis, 3 tackles and a sack. And Jacob Lacey, 1 tackle and 1 interception to go along with the big 7-point win in this game. So good win there so far. 4 games in and pretty close results here. So looking good. Moving on to the next game, which would pit the Titans against the Jags. And this has become quite a rivalry between these two teams. This was a matchup of 2 new franchises when they came on, and they wanted to prove their worth as they did in their first year. Jags had a more successful season than the Titans did in their first season, and the Jags really, the franchise has really grown since then. Titans seem to do well, and then somehow they just kind of filter off. Kind of just been their mainstay. How it goes sometimes. Yes, you make the playoffs, but then in their history, they've only made 1 Super Bowl appearance, and that one they lost. But moving on, it was a bunch of new guys. You had new quarterback for the Titans. You also had a new quarterback for the Jags, as the Jags decided to get rid of their previous leader, David Garrard, in the offseason, and the Titans traded for Matt Hasselbeck, or signed him for their team. But in this game, Titans 41-21 over the Jags. Matt Hasselbeck, the leader for the Jags, 9 of 12, 169, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Really, he didn't have to throw that much because Chris Johnson just took over in this game. He had 24 carries, 224, 2 touchdowns. Also adding to that was 3 receptions, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air for Chris Johnson. So 4 touchdowns total for Chris Johnson in the game. Now, that's not player of the game or player of the week. I don't know what is. I'm going to go ahead and nominate him for player of the week with those numbers. And then Nate Washington, 3 receptions, 49 yards. Also for the Titans. And for the Jags, Luke McCowan, 18 of 27, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 5 huge interceptions. Rashad Jennings, 8 carries, 23 yards. Where was the running game in this? And then Jason Hill, 4 receptions, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Thomas, 4 receptions, 84 yards, 1 touchdown for the Jags. And then defensive numbers, Terrence Knighton, 2 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble. For the Jags, Tyson Alou, 2 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble also. And then Darryl Smith, 4 tackles and a sack for the Jags. And for the Titans, defensive leaders, Michael Griffin, 3 tackles, 2 interceptions. Cortland Finnegan, 3 tackles, 1 interception. And Javon Hay, 2 tackles, 1 sack, and a forced fumble. As Titans roll it to a 20-point win, as they roll it 41-21, as they get the year going as well. Next big game on the docket was the Falcons against the Bears. And looking at the game preview before this whole thing started, pitted the advantage to the Falcons, mostly because of their weapons on offense and their rushing game of Michael Turner. But in the end, it turned out to be the Bears pulling out the big win, 26-20. Jay Cutler leading his team, 11 of 17, 174, 1 touchdown in this game. Matt Forte led the rushing attack for the Bears, 22 carries 166 yards and a touchdown. Then receiving core, Johnny Knox, 4 receptions, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. Matt Forte, 4 receptions, 39 yards, no touchdowns for him through the air, but he had 1 on the ground. And then for the Falcons, Matt Ryan, 20 of 33, 355, 2 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions. This game had a total of 4 turnovers, all due to the Falcons, as it was a pretty tough game there. First downs was 19-13 for the Falcons, and time possession also the Falcons 18-13. So pretty tough there. But you certainly don't win if you keep turning the ball over. I think everybody pretty much knows that. Michael Turner had 18 carries, 63 yards. Harry Douglas led the receiving core with 5 receptions, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. Tony Gonzalez, 6 receptions, 92 yards. And then for the Falcons, also rookie Julio Jones, 3 catches, 60 yards. And Roddy White had 35 yards receiving. And Eric Weems also had 30 yards receiving. As Falcons seem to be on the ball with their receiving core. It's just a matter of finding the end zone and getting the job done. So tough game there. Bears take it 26-20. So get on to week 2 for the Falcons and the Bears. Falcons hope to recover as the Bears stand out to a 1-0 record right now as they look to keep going. Defensive leaders for the Bears, Lance Briggs, 4 tackles and an interception. Stephen Pay, 3 tackles, 2 sacks, and Kelvin Hayden, 2 tackles and an interception in the game. And then for the Falcons, Sean Weatherspoon, 4 tackles, 1 sack. Curtis Lofton, 2 tackles, 1 sack. Sonny Jones, 1 tackle. Leaders for the Falcons in a very tough 6-point loss. So what can you do but just move on to week 2. Now the next game you might notice, if you look at MLM, did not register on the MLM, but they did complete 4 quarters of action. Final score in this game was Kansas City 14, the Bills 12. The final vote came to, this game was just a mess, to really just put it mildly. It was a mess. Both guys had disconnection issues. And from what I understood, a little bit of lag on their end too, so it was just an ugly game. But results stood as the committee got together on this, and as we decided to go with the fact that they completed 4 quarters of action and decided to let the final score stand. But the Chiefs get it 14-12 win over the Bills. So the Chiefs move on to next week's battle. So we'll have to see from there. Next game on the docket was the St. Louis Rams against the Philadelphia Eagles. And what a game this was. Overall advantage in this game went to the Rams, and it certainly paved that way in the game, but just barely, as the final score is 32-31. St. Louis with the win in this game. What else can you say than that? Couldn't ask for a better game than that. Eagles looking for a lot of changes in this game, and a lot of went with some trades in the off season, as they ended up trading 2 players to the Miami Dolphins, as they got Reggie Bush and cornerback Vontae Davis in return. And how would all those guys come out? As we go to stats and see, for the Rams, Sam Bradford was 19 of 28, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, though. And I have a feeling those turned into Eagle points, as visual does not let turnovers go unscored upon. As he is very defensive minded guy, plays very tough defense. Played him a few times in the LMFL. He was one of the really good guys in the league. He's a very tough player to deal with. And of course, as history knows, the history between Fischel and Big D, the commish. But what a game again this was. Steven Jackson led the way for the Rams in rushing, 26 carries, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns all on the ground. And then the receiving core, Donnie Avery had 8 receptions, 132 yards, 1 touchdown. Mike Sims Walker, 7 receptions, 119 yards. So you already got 2 players over 100 yards in this game. In receiving, where was defense? And then for the Eagles, you had Michael Vick, 12 of 20, 208 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Reggie Bush, 13 carries, 61 yards, 1 touchdown for his new team. And then he also led in receiving, 6 catches, 100 yards, right on the money, 1 touchdown. So 2 touchdowns for Bush in this game. And Owen Schmidt for the Eagles, 1 catch, 55 yards. As the Eagles really got things going. Interesting fact in this game was that Michael Vick did not have any yards for carry in this game. All was done through the air for him, as he found his guys, as he found not only Bush and Smith, but found Deshaun Jackson for 31 yards, Steve Smith for 11, and Brent Salick for 11 yards. For the Eagles, for the Rams, it was pretty much those 2 guys, over 100 yards in receiving. They just chewed it up through the air. As what a game it was. Defensive leaders for the Rams, Ronald Bartel, 4 tackles and an interception. Quentin Michael, 4 tackles and a forced fumble. And then Nall Diggs, 4 tackles and a sack in this game. And for the Eagles, the trade worked out well, as they got Vontae Davis as the defensive leader. He had 4 tackles and an interception. And then Samunga had 2 tackles and an interception also. He's one of the big offseason guys that was acquired by the Eagles. A lot of press on him. And then Jordan Calvin had 2 tackles and a forced fumble. So tough loss there for the Eagles for the first week. From what I heard out of the Philadelphia News, was that Fischel's job is on the line already. Fans want a Super Bowl. It is Super Bowl or bust over there in Philadelphia. So it's going to be up to the man, and you know who I'm talking about, to turn this thing around and get the Eagles back on the winning side. If you're going to have any hopes of getting to the playoffs, you're going to have to do better than that. So moving on from that fantastic game to another fantastic game, which pitted the Detroit Lions against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Detroit Lions, America's lovable losers over the last few seasons. The whole franchise has just been an absolute mess the last several years, as they just had major issues with trying to get personnel and everything else in there, and just had not looked all that good. What else can you say than that? But everybody hoped that they would get things rolling in this thing, as new year, new ownership, as Big Smooth decided to take over the Lions. Of course, he's a Michigan man. The Detroit Lions are his team. So we were not surprised when he took the Lions. Now, the big question would be, would that transcend into wins for the Lions and possible playoff berth? I know we're talking week 1, but week 1 kind of starts to roll towards week 17 and also the playoff push. So we'll have to see what happens here. A game preview for this whole thing rolled up, gave the advantage to the Lions, as luckily it turned to fruition for the Lions as they pulled out a 24-17 win in this game. So good start for Smooth as he gets the first big win of the year. His quarterback, Matthew Stafford, 20 of 23, 257, 1 touchdown. Javad Best, 21 carries, 77 yards, 1 touchdown in the running game. He also led the receiving game with 5 catches, 104 yards. And then Maurice Stovall, 4 receptions, 45 yards. The only thing I can say was, where was Megatron during this game? He only had 4 receptions, 41 yards. He did reach the end zone in this game for the Lions, but definitely I was looking to see Calvin Johnson's name appear in the leaderboard, not Javad Best. But, you know, I guess when you are a #1 receiver, everybody's kind of gunning for you. That's pretty much what happens. So we'll see how well the team does in week 2. And then for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by quarterback Josh Freeman, 15 of 24, 217, 2 touchdowns. LeGarrette Blount, 15 carries, 53 yards. Arliss Benn, 4 receptions, 88 yards. And then Mike Williams, 5 receptions, 49 yards. And neither of those guys reached the end zone. Receiving core that reached the end zone for the Bucs was Kellen Winslow. He scored twice. And also had 3 catches for 43 yards in this game. So we'll have to see how it goes from there for the Lions as they get off to a good start. Defensive leaders for the Bucs: Myron Lewis, 3 tackles and a sack. Daquan Bowers, 2 tackles and a sack. And then Rondé Barber, 2 tackles for him. Cliff Averill, 1 tackle, 1 sack. And Sue out of Nebraska, 1 tackle. And then Justin Durant, 2 tackles. And looking over the stats, really nothing much else for the defense. I'm guessing that he did not play his other defensive tackle, Nick Fairley, as the other defensive tackle, Corey Williams, also added 2 tackles in this game. So I'm guessing that he's trying to save Nick Fairley for when he bulks up a little bit better than that. Hopefully the Lions can stay away from the injury bug, which kind of seems to have been their nemesis over the last several years. Matthew Stafford missing either most or all of the season due to injury. So we'll have to see how well he does this year. So big win for the Lions as they get off to Schneid with a big 24-17 win. And so best of luck to you, Smooth. Next one on the docket: Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. This was a very good game, a 7-point win as the Niners lose a tough one to the Seahawks. Game advantage put the Seahawks with the overall advantage, and when the thing was done, it turned out to be the Seahawks did get the 31-24 win. Charlie Whitehurst, new quarterback for the team as he takes over the starting role as he took over the quarterback position from as Hasselbeck left Seattle, as he was 11 of 22, 302 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Marshawn Lynch had 24 carries, 79 yards, 1 touchdown. Zach Miller, 4 catches, 114, and Golden Tate had 1 reception for 73 yards and a touchdown for the Seahawks in the big win. And for the Niners, their management decided to go with Colin Kaepernick as their quarterback, as he decided to get the nod here, and it was not good, as he was only 12 of 27, 133 yards, 3 interceptions. Frank Gore rushed for 27 carries, 337 yards. Oh, my Lord. 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, but did not add up to wins for the Niners. Vernon Davis had 8 receptions, 69 yards, and Delaney Walker, 2 receptions for 27 yards. So, in one sense, the Niners, just rolled up rushing yards. In the other sense, it was a battle of turnovers in this game, 4-3 to the Niners. 7 turnovers in the game. Time of possession was very tight, only a 1-minute difference in that, and the first downs were even at 10 for both teams. So a tough game overall for both teams. What else can you say than that? But a good win for Seattle. Defensive leaders, Aldon Smith for Niners, 3 tackles and an interception. Isaac Soboga, 1 tackle, and Will Tukafu, 3 tackles for the Niners. And for the Seahawks, Kelly Jennings, 3 tackles, 2 interceptions, and Earl Thomas, 4 tackles and a pick, and Red Bryant, 1 tackle. So Seahawks get off to a 1-0 start to start off the new season. And then the next game from there would pit rivals the New York Giants against the Washington Redskins. The new look Washington Redskins, as they pretty much did some offseason runnage in the offseason. The biggest loss on the offseason was the fact that they lost Donovan McNabb. Just McNabb and the Skins did not get along at all in this 1 year together. It was just a mess from day one. What else can you say than that? As McNabb ended up going to the Vikings. I think so. Not sure, but it was just a mess. Washington then started Rex Grossman in that spot, while the Giants had their leader, Eli Manning. That turned out to be a 39-24 win for the Giants in this one. For the Skins, Rex Grossman, 6 of 13, 94 yards, 1 interception. Tim Hightower led the running attack for Skins, 17 carries, 87 yards, 1 touchdown. Santana Moss, 3 receptions, 41 yards. Anthony Armstrong, 2 catches, 33 yards. And then for the Giants, Eli Manning, 11 of 21, 252, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So not bad. Biggest thing, total turnovers in this game was only 3. The Giants had 2 of them, but they ended up getting the win either way. But you definitely do not want to turn the ball over if too much to give opportunities for the other team. In the running attack, Ahmad Bradshaw, 9 carries, 156 yards, 1 touchdown. Hakeem Nicks, 3 receptions, 151 yards, 1 touchdown. And Ahmad Bradshaw, 4 catches, 48 yards. And for the defensive leaders, for the Skins, you have LaRon Landry, 3 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Brian Rakapo, 3 tackles and a sack. And D'Angelo Hall had 1 interception for his stats. And for the Giants, Zach Diossi, 4 tackles, 2 sacks. Jonathan Goff, 5 tackles and a sack. And Deion Grant, 1 tackle. So the Giants win 39-24 to get the year going for them. In the next game, it would be the Minnesota Vikings against San Diego Chargers. As the Chargers looking to rebound, they did lose some key guys in their offseason, but the big question would be, what would that turn into, a positive or a negative for the Chargers? And it turned out to be a positive for the Chargers as they pulled out a 10-point win in this game, 38-28. As Philip Rivers was 12 of 17, 287, 2 touchdowns for the Chargers. Ryan Matthews, 16 carries, 149, 2 touchdowns. Antonio Gates, 5 receptions, 114, 1 touchdown. Vincent Jackson, 3 catches, 108 yards, and 1 touchdown. And for the Vikings, led by their new man, Christian Ponder, the man out of Florida State, he was 16 of 29, 384, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Adrian Peterson, low game for him, 16 carries, 62 yards. He did reach the end zone. And then receiving core, Bernard Barron, 2 catches, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. My God, 2 catches. He had an average of 55 yards a catch, 2 receptions. And then the other one was Percy Harvin, 4 catches, 109 yards, and 1 touchdown. And then Michael Jenkins finished up on the other end with 1 score for the Vikings in that one. And for the Vikings, yeah. But for the Chargers, you had Ryan Matthews, 16 carries, 149 yards. Mike Tolbert who also rushed 3 times, 18 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Noel Devine, 5 carries, 10 yards for him. As it was really a hard-fought game in this game. Defensive leaders for the Chargers are Weddle, 5 tackles, 3 interceptions. Bob Sanders, 3 tackles and a forced fumble. And Takeo Spikes, 4 tackles and a sack for the Chargers. And for the Vikings, Chad Greenway, 3 tackles, 1 sack. Asher Allen, 1 tackle, 1 sack. And Kevin Williams, 2 tackles and nothing else on the board other than that. But the Chargers get off the schneid 38-28 with a big win as we get things rolling. Moving on to the next game, which would pit the Arizona Cardinals with their new quarterback, Kevin Cobb, and who was dealt from Philadelphia to the Cardinals. They would take on Carolina Panthers and their #1 draft pick, Cam Newton, as it would be a battle of first new quarterbacks in this game. Really wouldn't say first year for Cobb, as he played a good bit in Philadelphia. Cam Newton, first season out of Auburn, as they go from there. Kevin Cobb for the Arizona, but all that would turn into a win for the Cardinals, 27-24, 3-point game in this game, very close game. Overall, it was a very good game. You had 1 turnover each for both teams, so you only had a total of 2 turnovers. First downs, 7 more for the Cardinals, 18-11, and time of possession also went to the Cardinals in 19 minutes versus 12 for the Cardinals. For the Panthers. And in this game, you had Kevin Cobb for the Cardinals, 19-27, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game. Running back Beanie Wells had 23 carries, 67 yards. Then you had the fullback with 20 yards. And then Ryan Williams, rookie at Virginia Tech, 2 carries, 18 yards, but he did reach the end zone, the only one to do that. And then for Panthers, D'Angelo Williams, 14 carries, 74 yards, 1 touchdown, and Cam Newton, 3 rushes for only 14 yards. So the big thing on the Panthers is if you can contain Cam Newton, you're going to win. Cam's overall stats, 19-28, 293, 2 touchdowns for him. So he didn't turn the ball over, which is good. But it's going to be a long year. And go from there. For the receiving core for the Cardinals, Todd Heap, 6 catches, 99 yards. And Andre Roberts, 7 catches, 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. And for the Panthers, David Geddes, 3 catches, 121, 1 touchdown. And Greg Olsen, 8 catches, 94 yards, and no touchdowns. And defensive leaders for the Cardinals, Clark Higgins, 2 tackles and a sack. Joey Porter, 1 tackle and a forced fumble. And Kerry Rhodes, 2 tackles for the Cardinals. And for the Panthers, Rod Martin, 5 tackles and a forced fumble. James Anderson, 4 tackles and a sack. And Everett Brown, 2 tackles and a sack for the Panthers. That's the Cardinals get the big 27-24 win. So moving on to the next game, which would pit the Dallas Cowboys against the New York Jets. Dallas Cowboys under new leadership, as they have a new head coach and new owner in this thing. As a big question would be, would that transcend into wins and possible playoff and a hopeful possible Super Bowl for the Cowboys? They have not been to a Super Bowl since they last beat the Steelers, and that was during the Troy Aikman and the Michael Irvin days. So the big question is, can Tony Romo, a.k.a. Tony Homo, get over the hump, lead the Cowboys not only to the playoffs, but get the wins in order to get into the Super Bowl? And this year we'll definitely tell that, see how it goes. As first game, Dallas wins it 41-17 over the Jets, as they just blitzkrieg the Jets to death in this game. For Tony Romo, 15 of 25, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, but two interceptions. And then Felix Jones, 15 carries, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kevin Ogletree led the receiving corps, 5 receptions, 152 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Dez Bryant, 5 receptions, 131 yards, no touchdowns for him. As Dallas Cowboys just pasted the Jets. Mark Sanchez for the Jets, 27 of 55, 438, 2 touchdowns, but 5 huge interceptions in this game. As the Jets bring 7 turnovers in this game for both teams. It was really just not a good game for the Jets, as they hope to get things rolling again soon. LaDainian Tomlinson, 15 carries, 63 yards. And then Plaxico Burress, 7 catches, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. Santonio Holmes, the kid from came over from Pittsburgh, 9 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. For the defensive leaders for the Jets, David Harris, 5 tackles and a forced fumble. Jim Leonard, 4 tackles, 1 interception, and Bart Scott, 3 tackles and a forced fumble for the Jets. And then for the Cowboys, Terrence Newman, 5 tackles and an interception. Abram Elam, 5 tackles and an interception. Brady James had 3 tackles and a sack and an interception to complete his night. The only thing he was missing was a forced fumble. But the Cowboys roll all over the Jets, 41-17 in this one. Next game on the docket, which would be part of a doubleheader Monday night game, which would pit New England Patriots against the Miami Dolphins. Rivals to the end between these two teams. There's always a battle between these two going in this game. Before the year began, it was a question of, with the acquisition of Reggie Bush, would that be a good fit for the team? And management answered with the fact of no, he definitely did not fit their game plan. He was traded to Philadelphia as they got back workhorse Ronnie Brown out of Auburn, who has been their leader on the running attack over the past several seasons, and they decided to get him again and get that running game back again. As it was a very tough game in this game. Overall advantage in this game gave it to the Dolphins before the game began, but that did not transcend to a win for the Dolphins. So, but Patriots win it 38-21. As Dolphins lose a tough one here. It's always tough losing to your rivals, but it was a well-played game overall. Telling stats in this game, it was Dolphins had the advantage in first downs, 14-11, but we also had 4 turnovers in this game. 4 of those were by Chad Henne, our quarterback, and they also took time of possession, 18-13 over the Patriots. But Patriots capitalized off the turnovers and turned them into points, and that's the name of the game, is making it hurt where it needs to be. For the Patriots, Tom Brady, 13-19, 181, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That was early in the game as he tried to get pass through the middle or out to the right side a bit, and it was picked off. And Ben Jarvis Greenos, 15 carries, 82 yards. And Chad Ochocinco, 3 catches, 51 yards and a touchdown. And Deion Branch, 3 receptions, 41 yards and a touchdown in the game for the Patriots. And then for the Dolphins, Chad Henne, 15-28, 190, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Ronnie Brown, 19 carries, 72 yards, and no touchdowns. Devon Best led the receiving corps for the Dolphins, 4 receptions, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Brandon Marshall also helped out with 4 receptions, 51 yards in the game. And defensive leaders for the Dolphins, Kale Missy, 3 tackles, 1 forced fumble in the game. Kevin Burnett, 1 tackle and an interception. And Kendall Langford, our left end, 2 tackles and a sack in this game. And Brandon Spikes for the Patriots, 4 tackles and an interception. Patrick Chung, 2 tackles and an interception. Devin McCourty, 2 tackles and an interception, as they led to a 38-21 win for the Patriots. So on to week 2 for Miami, and hopefully we can rebound from this and move on to next week. Moving on, it's the last game of week 1, the final game of Monday Night Football, which pitted the Oakland Raiders against the Denver Broncos. Over the years, you would say this was a pretty big rivalry between these two teams. These are two teams that just absolutely do not like each other, and that's been that way since the 70s. So it's been on between these two teams. Overall preview before the game began gave the advantage to the Broncos, and they made that pretty much stick in a 23-10 domination over the Raiders. Raiders just really had nothing much else they could do in this game. They turned the ball over 4 times. First downs were pretty slim, 9-8 in favor of the Broncos, and time of possession was pretty much on the mark, 13 minutes for both teams in this game. But the final points was 23-10 for the Broncos. For the Broncos, Kyle Orton, 8 of 14, 147, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. No Sean Marino, 16 carries, 54 yards. Eddie Royal had 5 catches, 93 yards, and Brandon Lloyd had 1 reception for 35 yards. He found the end zone in the game. And for the Oakland Raiders, Jason Campbell, 10 of 15, 79 yards, 2 interceptions. Not good there. Darren McFadden, 13 carries, 71 yards, no touchdowns. Kevin Boss, 4 receptions, 36 yards. And Darius Hayward-Bay, kid out of Maryland, 2 receptions, 22 yards. And just tough game overall. Rolando McClain, the outstanding linebacker we had at Alabama, 7 tackles and an interception. Randall Gay, 3 tackles and a sack. And the big man out of Georgia, Richard Seymour, 2 tackles and a sack in this game for the Raiders. But just not enough to overcome the Broncos in this game, as it was a very tough game overall in the battle. So what else can you say than that? But week 1 is in the books, gentlemen. It was a great, fantastic week to get things rolling here, as we got things going the way we needed to. Looking at the current power rankings right now, has the Arizona Cardinals on top, number 1. Number 2, right behind them, is Pittsburgh. Number 3 is New England. And then St. Louis, Dallas, Seattle, the Giants, the Titans, the Saints, the Browns, the Colts, the Lions, Broncos, Chargers, Bears, Bills, Chiefs, Dolphins come in at number 18. Texans, Buccaneers, Eagles, Vikings, Packers, Skins, Jets, 49ers, Bengals, Panthers, Jags, Falcons, Raiders, and the Ravens. So, interesting spot there. And so we'll just have to see what goes from there. So right now it's still early in the race to see who's got what, but current standings right now pretty much has New England, Bills on top with 1-0 records. In the north, you have the Steelers and the Browns. In the south, you have the Colts and the Titans. And then in the west, you have the Broncos and the Chargers. In the AFC and the NFC, in the East, you have Cowboys and Giants. I think that battle's going to be pretty nip and tuck throughout the year. But, like I said, we'll have to see how well the Eagles rebound after a 1-point loss. NFC North, you have the Bears and the Lions on top. And then in the South, you have Saints all alone at 1-0. Falcons, Panthers, and Buccaneers all lost their games. And then in the West, you have Cardinals, Rams, and Seahawks all at 1-0. Niners were the only ones to lose their game in that one. So it will be interesting to see how it goes from there. Moving on to week 2, we have still another great, major cascade games. First one to kick it off here of week 2 on the preview side of it will be the Lions and the Chiefs. They kick off the overall, as they kick off the overall how it goes. Overall preview on the Lions and the Chiefs have them split dead even in this game. So it will be interesting how the results of that game comes out. It will be interesting. Next game will be the Seahawks and the Steelers, as the overall preview in this gives the advantage to the Steelers. Overall, basically because of their numbers. But it will be interesting. There's a lot of positives and negatives in this, but it will be interesting. Big question is, can the Steelers keep the turnovers down a bit after that rough Week 1 matchup against the Ravens, game in which they had 9 turnovers in the game. Next up would be the Oakland Raiders and the Buffalo Bills. Overall preview has the advantage going to the Raiders in this game, so that will also be interesting to see from there. And then the Packers and the Panthers, battle of 2 0-1 teams. As we get things going, overall advantage goes to the Packers in this, so it'll be interesting to see what goes from there. Should be a good even matchup. Now the big question is, can the Packers contain the Panthers' superstar quarterback? And then next up is the Ravens and the Titans. Overall preview gives the Titans the advantage in this, as so we'll see if that comes to fruition in this one. And then the Browns and the Colts, as a battle of Peyton Manning versus Colt McCoy. So this will be very interesting to see what happens here. Overall advantage goes to the Colts in this one. So we'll just have to see if that comes to fruition in the game. And how many more yards will Peyton Manning roll up after he rolled up over 500 in passing in Week 1. Next up is the Buccaneers against the Vikings. Another battle of 0-1 teams. Overall advantage in this one gives the Vikings the advantage. So we'll have to see what happens here in this game. Major stat point on this is the turnover battle. Vikings had 4 turnovers in their first game. Buccaneers had 0. So it's a battle of who can keep the ball the longest in this one, and who cannot turn the ball over. You definitely don't want that. Next one up would be the Arizona Cardinals against the Washington Redskins. Overall advantage gives the Cardinals the advantage on this, as really time possession scoring wise it's pretty dead even between these two teams. So it's just a matter of who can force turnovers and get points. Next up would be the Bears against the Saints, and a big matchup there, as Big D goes for win number 2 for his team. Overall advantage in this battle would put the advantage to the Saints in this one, as we'll just have to see what happens here. Both teams did not have turnovers in their first games, so it will be interesting to see if either defenses can force turnovers in this game. Next up would be the Jags and the New York Jets. Overall advantage in this game pits the Jets with the advantage. Will that come to fruition? Will the Jets walk out of there with a win in the battle of 0-1 teams? And next one after that is the Dallas Cowboys. Big time rivalry with the San Francisco 49ers. Overall preview pits the Cowboys with the advantage in this game, so we'll have to see if that comes to fruition. As anytime you get Niners and the Cowboys together, it's always going to be a dogfight. There's no doubt about that. Next up would be the Chargers and the Patriots. Battle of 2 teams who like to pass the ball and occasionally run the ball too. But basically, Tom Brady versus Philip Rivers, who's going to roll up the higher numbers in this game. Overall advantage in this game pits it split even. There's no advantage for any team in this game. It would really be a battle of time of possession and also turnovers in this game. Patriots have won in their previous game with the Dolphins. Chargers did not, so both defenses are going to have to be on the ball in this one to see who can get the ball, turn the ball over, turn those into points. And then Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos. Battle of 1-0 versus 0-1. And the overall advantage in this one pits the Broncos with the advantage in this game. So it should be interesting. Broncos will need to cut down the turnovers if they're going to win this game. They had 2 in their last game in their win, which still turned out to be a win, but you don't want to give the ball away too many times. Then another battle of 0-1 teams that puts the Texans against the Dolphins in this game, as overall advantage in this game pits the advantage to the Texans in this game. Both teams really struggled in their first games with turnovers, which they're dead even on that. Time possession barely goes to the Dolphins by 1 minute on the max there. Dolphins, tougher defense on the pass, as we only gave up 173 to the Patriots, while the Texans got shredded for 492 yards overall in that. So it'll be an interesting battle there, as it will be a really, I think it'll be a very tight game, or maybe come down to a wire type game. And then Sunday night battle would pit the Philadelphia Eagles against the Atlanta Falcons. Eagles trying to get off the schneid of their 1-point loss to the Rams and turn things around. And hopefully, as Michael Vick visits Atlanta, overall advantage in this game goes to the Falcons, as the Eagles hope to turn things around a bit and get on the winning side. Where the Falcons, with Matt Ryan looking for a win, they're hoping to also go to 1-1 on the year. And the Monday night battle, which would pit the St. Louis Rams against the New York Giants, battle of 1-0 teams in this game. Overall advantage in this game pits the advantage with the Giants, as it will be a battle of turnovers, who can turnovers and offense. Giants rolled at 537 yards total offense in their last game. Rams rolled at 412. So, and it'll also be a battle of rushing attacks, as the Giants and the Rams both bring out stellar running backs in this game. So we'll see from there. So, with that in mind, we have finally come to the conclusion of another week here on the show. I hope you all enjoyed it. I had a great pleasure bringing it to you this week. As always, play your games, get them scheduled in, gentlemen. That's the most important part of this league. Got to, 1, schedule games, and then 2, get the games played. So we hope to see everybody for week 3, as I will be bringing you the week 2 recap. From everybody else here, from my hidden location, as I like to say. Have yourselves a great evening, gentlemen. See you down the road.